The Modi government and the Tamil Nadu government are at virtual war over a range of issues. What began as a disagreement over the language policy has now opened up to talk about a whole bunch of other things. Everything from imposition of Hindi as alleged by Tamil Nadu, to the symbol for the rupee, to the delimitation debate, to, of course, a larger North versus South debate. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, we're looking at the fault lines that have erupted. We've been in this place before, a familiar North versus South debate, but this time the protagonists are the Tamil Nadu government, led by the DMK and the Modi government. We've seen some of the storms inside parliament over the language policy. The BJP argues that there is no imposition of any language. The DMK says that the Tamil Nadu government is being coerced, blackmailed, and held hostage, with the centre sitting on funds that are rightfully to be sanctioned for the Tamil Nadu government. In the midst of all this, there is also a fight over the symbol of the rupee. The Tamil Nadu budget dropped the conventional symbol and replaced it with Ru. Why did the Tamil Nadu government do that? In the meantime, there's of course a larger debate over delimitation, an imminent policy change that could shift the way politics is contested and understood in our country. On the program today, we'll be speaking to P. Thiaga Rajan. He's one of the most articulate and vocal defenders of the DMK government. He's been on a bunch of interviews. You've also read his columns on the language issue, as well as many other affiliated issues that are now at the epicenter of this battle between the Modi government and the Tamil Nadu government. I want to welcome PTR, as he is known, to the program. Thank you, Mr. Thiaga Rajan. Good to see you. Let's start with language. Let's start there. You have written most recently that the Tamil Nadu government is being coerced, funds are being held back. The union government has argued back and said that, in fact, the NEP, the National Education Policy of 2020, does not impose any language. It only talks about a second Indian language in addition to the language of the state. What then is the quarrel about? If the NEP is from 2020, why is the DMK contesting this policy in 2025? And if the government at the center assures that there is no imposition of Hindi planned, what are you precisely objecting to?
Actually, it's always better. First of all, thank you for having me. And I would say it's always better to be well informed rather than take whatever line the government of India says. This NEP is the third NEP in the history of India. The first one was in 1968. Second one was in 1986, amended in 1992. This is the third. The profound difference till now is not whether it's 2020 or 2025, is that all these NEPs have always called for three language, and all the time the government of Tamil Nadu has never adopted any of these NEPs. First time, though, the first and second times it was passed as a bill. This one is not even passed as a bill in the parliament. But we have never taken the NEP as our policy, not since independence, not in any of the previous iterations. The profound difference this time is not about the NEP or not, it's about the government of India using the NEP as a kind of weapon to say that unless you implement the NEP, we will never give you the funds that was already approved by the parliament in the finance bill passed after last year's budget. So from the basics of it, the difference is not whether the NEP calls for three, not whether it calls for Hindi, not whether we adopt it or not. All those things have stayed the same over the last 70 years. What is different now is the government, which otherwise weaponizes so many aspects of governance and the federal or the union to state relationship, is also weaponizing this, much like it has done for other funds, where they say unless you put the PM's picture, you will not release the money. Here they say unless you adopt the NEP, we will not release the money. We say that's extortion. We're not going to do that.
I take your point about the three NEPs, and the first one was, if I remember correctly, in 1968. I think the counter question from the center is this: if there is no imposition, I hear you that the difference is they're withholding funds, and you think that that is extortion. But their argument, or some of the questions even people like Yogendra Yadav, for example, have raised is, let's not make this into a Hindi bashing moment. Yogendra Yadav is with the opposition. He's not with the Modi government. He's saying, let's not make this into a Hindi bashing opportunity. And there is no forced Hindi imposition. So can we first clear the air on that? Do you not adopt this NEP? This NEP, not the previous ones, which actually made Hindi mandatory, but this one doesn't.
I'm not sure how I can make this simpler. You keep asking a question that makes no sense to me. We have never accepted an NEP, period. Not in 1968, not in 1986, not in 1992, not in 2020, not in 2025. I don't know how bad your understanding is. We do not believe that there should be an NEP. We have always kept our own formula, and we don't think that you should tie already approved money in the parliament to some additional condition that is extra constitutional, extra legislative. Maybe I don't know how to make it simpler than that.
You don't have to re-explain it to me. I understand that Tamil Nadu has never agreed with the NEP, and you don't think that funds from the center that are duly the states should be tied to the NEP. I get that. I am only trying to broaden this conversation to ask you, what is the disagreement with the NEP? It's a philosophical question.
Listen, there are 100 disagreements. You should read. We have all kinds of problems, from a forced three-language formula, irrespective of what the formula is, to the need to do public examinations at 5th grade and 8th grade, to so many aspects of the NEP are not suitable to us, to categorizing streams of vocational training relatively early without ensuring everybody gets to 10th grade or 12th grade. There are 100 aspects of the NEP we don't like. It's not just one. Everybody wants to make it a inflammable debate by making it about one thing. We don't want the NEP. We have never adopted the NEP, and we have never adopted whether it was a Congress government in Delhi or a BJP government in Delhi. This is not politics. This is Tamil Nadu protecting its educational model, which has produced really good results, better than any large state and better than any state that allegedly has implemented a three-language formula and is failing at getting even one language done properly. That's it, simple.
Okay, let me ask you what next. You heard the Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan in Parliament. He alleged that Tamil Nadu had initially agreed to the MOU, then backed out. He made the argument that children of DMK leaders who study in private school are anyway, schools, for example, that follow a central board do have the three-language formula. So it's only kids in government schools who are suffering. How do you respond to that? That even within Tamil Nadu itself, there is a divergence in policy between government schools and private schools.
I must confess, I'm getting a bit tired of these inane, arguments. Let me break each one down one last time. The first one is, there are more than 1 crore students studying in a two-language formula system in Tamil Nadu, and about 15 lakh students studying in an alleged three-language formula, though none of the Kendriya Vidyalayas even has a Tamil teacher. So this is not as if it's like 50-50 or 80-20 or whatever. It's overwhelming majority is studying two languages, number one. Number two, we are saying that we will not have a compulsory third language. We will only have 2 compulsory languages. That is a proven formula, not only in Tamil Nadu, in most of the international boards, like International Baccalaureate, IGCSE, AP, they only have a 2-language formula. It's not like we are the only geniuses in the world. A lot of international education only focuses on 2 languages because they have other things to learn. They have science, they have math, they have humanities. Now with all the new AI, they have many things to learn. The last thing I will say is, it is not in the nature of decent politics to start personalizing whose children go where. Let me be very specific. How long will it take for me to ask you how many union ministers' children study in government schools as opposed to private schools? How long will it take for me to ask you how many of their children study at Harvard and Oxford instead of some university in Delhi or in Gujarat? My point is, every parent will want to give their children the best education possible. That is human nature. I hope most people understand that. The next question is, generally people who are MLAs, MPs, ministers tend to be above average incomes and above average economic situation. So everywhere in the world, you will find that the children of political leaders who have reached some level of success will be like upper middle class or above people studying in various types of schools. That is not the basis for why anybody's policy should be what? Were I to go down, stoop down to the level of personalizing this, I will ask for the union minister's list of children, how many of them are studying in Hindi language schools, how many of them are studying in Oxford, how many of them are studying in Harvard. We just choose to do dignified politics about policies and not personalize this. If they want to do it, let them do it. There's an old Tamil poetry. It says that if a rabid dog bites you, will you bite it back? If somebody without culture goes with a bad attitude, will you go back and start talking to them in their own language? We will stay at the policy level, right? We are not going to get down to this personalization, which is the weakest form of argument. It is an inane, irrational argument. I could easily twist it around. I don't want to because I have decency.
So what next? What are the options before the Tamil Nadu government if this standoff continues? Do you go to court? Is there any sort of space for negotiation with the center? What happens next?
Look, when it is up to me, I am very clear. I have said it, my personal view is that we should definitely go to court, not for any other reason, but this is the nth iteration of this kind of extra constitutional, extra legislative attempt to force in new conditions for political purposes that were not passed in the bill or in the constitutional framework. Therefore, I would like to see whether we are still functioning as a constitutional democracy and whether the Supreme Court actually has the courage to support the Constitution and ensure its framework is still valid. That's my personal view. But I don't make these decisions. I'm not the education minister. I'm certainly not of the seniority, of many of the senior ministers. Of the chief minister will make the decision. So he will do what he thinks is right. He has made public comments. I don't want to reiterate those comments. But as far as I'm concerned, the onus here is on the government of India to follow the law and the bill they passed and the constitutional framework. If they don't do it, then if it were up to me, I would certainly go to court. Not just for about this money, because the chief minister said, no amount of money can make us change our profound views and our philosophy. And I'll go get to that later in a different time. I'm not sure the money makes that much difference in outcomes. We have not seen it in other states. So it's not that we're going to sacrifice our children's future or something by not taking this money. We think it's much better for our children to keep 2 languages than take the extra money for the sake of 3 languages. But the profound point is, should we or should we not function as a constitutional democracy? Is there a way to validate whether the constitution is still in effect at the court? That would be my view, but the government will make its own view. It's not my department. I'm on public record on this view.
Now, I read with interest one of your recent columns where you actually framed these disagreements with the center in a larger context. And that context was, here's the column, why the rest should learn from the best. And you said that the center should focus on what's happening in the states in the north, focus there on socioeconomic indices instead of coercing Tamil Nadu. Do you see this as an emerging north versus south, to borrow the cliche debate?
There's no anybody versus anybody. Let me first start by saying that heading was not picked by me. The article is written by me, but the editors of the newspaper choose the heading. My point is not any of this. I don't think this is about the DMK. I don't think this is about politics. I don't think this is about South. I don't think it's about North. This is about India and its future. If India's future is going to be profoundly better than it is today, we're on some growth trajectory. If we're going to expand that trajectory, which I think the opportunity is right for us, as I've said in that article, as China slows down and the world needs another equivalent large economy with a lot of human beings, then India is in a prime position to replicate those 2-3 decades of growth that made China go from a few $100 to $12,000, $13,000, unprecedented in the history of mankind, that 1 billion odd people moved up that much. That opportunity is dependent on only one thing. Forget which party is running the government. Forget which, south or north or geography. It is based on increasing the per capita productivity of the youth of this country. Now I say, if that is the basis, surely if I'm a thoughtful person and trying to optimize the outcome, I should find the place where the per capita productivity, education, healthcare is the worst and try to improve that. That is what thoughtful people would do. It doesn't matter. Let me be brutally honest. It doesn't matter if Tamil Nadu's growth is plus or 1%, minus 1% to its relative trajectory. We have actually built a good platform. We have inclusion. We have almost everybody in the system. We have a good social construct. Our economy is going to do well even without that much additional support. Even if somebody tries to constrain us, they can only slow us down a little. If they help us, they can only help us move up a little. Where it comes, because we're only like $4,000 something per capita income, we're in the middle income level. Where this country's trajectory is going to change is if we can make significant improvements in the poorer, most populous places that have the most number of young people. That's the only point I'm making. It's not about politics, it's not about North, it's not about South. If it happens to be in the North, let it be in the North. If it would have been in the South, it would have been in the South. Wherever there are a lot of young, less educated, less included, less well off people, that's where our focus should be if we want to make this country a greater country, bigger share in the global economy.
Would it be fair to say that a number of the disagreements that your party and your government are having with the Modi government at this moment have to be located in the larger debate around federalism? So, whether it's the run ins with the governor of Tamil Nadu, whether, as you said, it's the constitutional principle that's at the heart of the language debate, that states should be free to decide their own policies, or whether it's the imminent debate around delimitation, which is going to redraw constituencies and turn politics on its head. Is that what's actually really going on here?
I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? I think the issue is really about the nature of federalism. And I want to give you 2, 3 data points for you to really think about this. As I've said before, whoever happens to run the government in Delhi tends to want to be a homogenizer and tends to want to have one nation, one X, or one platform, one standard, this thing. That is irrespective of party, it is irrespective of human being, right? This was true in the British era. From the first Hindi imposition was in the 1930s when it was the British government. It was true of the government run by the Congress party, Mrs. Gandhi and others. These NEPs came in 68 when it was Congress government, 86 when it was Congress government, 92 when it was Congress government, and it's coming now in 2020, 2025, whatever you want to call it. And the greatest irony of this, I think, is absolute irony is one of the staunchest defenders of federalism, one of the people who pointed out the fallacy of trying to do something homogeneously from Delhi. In the history of India, one of the staunchest fighters against the suppression of states' rights was none other than the Chief Minister of Gujarat, through Narendra Modi. There are hundreds of clips, hundreds of statements in the House, outside, where he has talked about letting the states make their own decisions and not be throttled by the center, and not think that somehow the union is giving their uncle's money. Who is this? Whose mama's money is this? The exact word he's used when he was talking about Mr. Manmohan Singh's government. So the real difference is that whoever sits in Delhi tends to have this inclination, and maybe this iteration is exceptionally unique for 2 reasons. One, because it is the same person who used to be the greatest federalist, who's now the greatest anti-federalist centralizer. And 2, that this version of this kind of intrusion into states' rights is more visceral, more multifaceted, more multifarious, and more targeted and weaponized than any other intrusion in the history of India and the subcontinent.
In that sense, while you may or may not go to court on individual disagreements or specific disagreements, it's really about fighting this politically. And I'm not sure how many people actually understand what's actually at stake here. So, when politicians from some of the southern states get up and say have more children, to the rest of the country, that they don't get that, right? They don't get why anyone would get up and say have more children, because they don't understand that how much political clout you have in parliament might be actually linked to your population. So you're actually possibly being penalized for bringing your population under control. How are you going to create awareness around this? Because this isn't just a Tamil Nadu conversation.
Yeah, I think, again, you've been precise in the last sentence. The first 2, 3 sentences we must pass.
Okay.
What is politics? Politics is the business of conveying your ideas and your philosophies to the public and getting support. If you take it at that level, almost everything is politics. If you take politics as it is X party versus Y party, this is not that kind of politics. If you take it at another level, which you said, this is about the future, it is about those parts of the country that successfully control the population because it was the national imperative to do so. We were told that it was in the national interest back in the 70s when we started with V2 hours to V2 hours 1 and all that we should control population, and we did. Of course, there's a pretty confounding issue here, which is that all over the world, over the last 100 years at least, there is a very strong correlation between improving economic circumstances and natural reduction in population growth rates. And the reverse is true. the poorer places tend to have higher population growth rates. So what we have arrived at here is this great dichotomy that we can't tell which is the chicken and which is the egg. Is it because of better economic circumstances that we had lower population growth, or is it because lower population growth that we had better economic circumstances broadly? But in Tamil Nadu, we can tell for sure because it was mostly about education, mostly about inclusion, mostly about social justice, mostly about social equity that allowed us to start having economic outcomes that then gave natural growth. Now you have a lower growth. Now you have an issue. The issue is the states altogether are actually in the southern states altogether are in the situation where for having successfully done population control and the concomitant, the incidental to that or the correlated to that improvement in economic circumstances has led to a very unique situation. And that is that the better off states are also the less populated states, are also the less fertility states, are also the ones that are going to lose representation were you to do redistricting after 2026 when the freeze expires. That's the situation we're in. In that sense, it is not about politics. It is not about the DMK. It is not about Tamil Nadu. It is about all economically developed states that have controlled their population.
Fair enough. And as you said, politics is about conveying that your idea needs a larger support. And I take that point. There's been another specific face-off between the center and your government, and that is over the rupee symbol. I don't think people understand, and maybe you can explain. The budget seems to use a different symbol. That's the Indian Express headline. The Tamil Nadu government replaces the rupee symbol with the Tamil letter in state budget logo, draws the anger of the center. What do you say, PTR?
Yeah, I'm not the finance minister. I didn't design that sheet. The chief minister has given an explanation in a video put out yesterday. Since I was not involved in the process, I don't want to second guess. He has already said it. I will just say only 2-3 things. That there are many ways to represent the rupee. I, for example, am an ex-banker and I ran, among other things, a foreign exchange business. So I always represent currency with their 3-letter trading symbol. I use INR for rupee. I use USD or SGD or AUD or EUR or whatever. In many places, they use RE or RS. In some places, they use the R symbol, the Devanagari script symbol.
Yeah.
In many places, they use the Tamil symbol, including through Annamalai, who's the president of the state BJP, including through Nirmala Sitharaman, who's the finance minister. When they have tweeted in Tamil about issues, they have used that symbol in front of the rupee. So I assume that using any of these symbols, from INR to RE to RS to Devanagari to rupee, whatever it is, Tamil, is all based on the audience that you are writing it for and what are they likely to read. So for me, it is not such a big issue because I have seen everybody use every symbol over the course of time, for it is a means of communicating something. Whatever the other political aspects are, I was not involved in any of this. I didn't even see it by coincidence. I didn't even attend the budget presentation because that day I was on a mission to go meet the Kerala Chief Minister for this Joint Action Committee. So I didn't even know about this happening till after I was well on the tour of return. So I don't have much to add about that.
Let's end with this Joint Action Committee and what you're planning. Next to widen the resistance towards some of these policies, homogenizing policies, as you call them, by the center. What's the plan?
Okay, I think I want to use this opportunity to just say 2 or 3 things that may be not so clear to everybody in the country. So it's not about resistance, it's about rights, it's about future. So let me just say 3 things. One, There is no other country in the world, certainly of our scale, but even any mid-income or mid-sized country, where so much of the executive power or legislative power is concentrated at the union level and so little of it at the state and almost none at the local body level. I've talked about this many times before, but just for completeness, I'll say it here again. When I lived in the United States, the school board, the police, all of these were by the town or the village, selected, appointed, paid, policied, everything. The curriculum was set by the school board for that village or that town. The sales tax and the store rules of when open, close, and all that stuff was set by the county level, what we call district. States and cities can levy income tax and give licenses and so forth. And so if you really look at it, the US is much more devolved in power than us. Here you take China. I used to do as an international banker. I was a global head of some banking. In China, you have to get bank licenses by province. There is no pan-China bank license. You have to, even if you're an international bank, you have to go get province, which is equal to our state by state, right? The city of Shanghai runs its own police force, its own environmental clearance permits, its own industrial policy, its own school. So the devolution of power, because it is more efficient, because it is more accountability between the elected person and the elector, this is natural for a society. For historic reasons, not to be debated at length here, our constitution is greatly concentrating the power in Delhi. This is the first point. The second point is, when there is so much power in Delhi, your representation there matters a lot. So having 5% or 7% is a big difference in that place, because that's where all the power and all the money and all the revenue is coming from.
Yeah.
The third point is, across India, we have this dichotomy that you don't see anywhere else in the world. The dichotomy is that the states or the places that have the highest populations and the highest fertility rates also have the poorest economic outcomes. If you look at most other places, you look at the US or you look at China, the economy is much better in the coast than in the hinterland. The population migrates to the coast, and that's where you have the highest number of people, where there's the greatest economy. And it's local self-governance. They generate their own revenue and they manage it. In the US, it's the same. The Californias, the New Yorks have the highest economies, the highest populations. Here we have a situation that's exactly the opposite, and therefore we are seeing massive net financial transfers. At one point, for every rupee we paid in tax, we got 70 paise back, then 50, then 30, now 20s. Now we say, if all this money and all this power is concentrated in Delhi and our representation is going to go down, obviously all those higher economy, lower population, lower fertility states are going to have a concern. That's what the Joint Action Committee is for, right? And that the Chief Minister has done very methodically. He started with all parties in Tamil Nadu to make this not about the DMK. Then he started with all the states, so that it's not about Tamil Nadu alone. And we are moving towards actual national discussion on this, because it's not about one state or one party or one government.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there are principles to be debated here that literally impact how power is wielded, shared, structured, organized in India. And as you said, it goes to the heart of the federalism debate. Thank you, P. Thiaga Rajan. Always a pleasure, and look forward to seeing how this debate shapes in the days to come.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.